Parachav, chapter 16, Vayaran Iyov Vayomar. Iyov responds to the very short chapter of chapter 25 as follows, and you'll see this chapter is extremely puzzling. Me azarta lilo cholach, hoshata zroa lo oz. Right? You would help, right, without having strength. You would deliver with arms that have no power. Maya atzta lilo chochma vitushia lerov hodata. Without wisdom, you offer advice and you freely give your counsel. At mi higadata milin, v'nishmat mi yatsa mi mecca. To whom have you addressed words? Whose breath issued from you, right? Who are you trying to convince with all these words and with all these things, right? What do you know about these things? Harifaim yicho lalu mitachat mayim v'shochnehem. The shades tremble beneath the waters. Arom, Shaol negdo v'ein ksut la'avadon. Shaol is naked before him. Avadon has no cover. No tetzafon al tohu tole eretz al beli ma. It is God who stretched out all the way to the north, to Tzafon, over the chaos. There was Tohu Vavo, and God is the one who covered over that chaos. God who suspended earth over emptiness. We have this verse, right? Tola Eretz al Blima. And the Blima is usually one word, is the way that it's seen in our... is the way that we see it, but here we have it where that it's two words, belima, that it's two words, not one word. So but here, what Iyov is doing here is Iyov is introducing a lot of mythical ideas and mythical language, things that we haven't seen, and things here where Iyov is the one who is praising God, which is very, very strange. Why would Iyov be praising God? Why would he talk about the pillars of heaven, right? Why would he be why would he be talking about the greatness of God? It doesn't really make sense. So there are those who say, some modern commentaries, that there's a sort of a mistake in the text in the book, and that this is not Iyov's speech. It said Vayan Iyov Vayomar, but it's a mistake, and it's not Iyov's words. Iyov is not the one who said this. This is the continuation, and somehow something got messed up, and it looks like it's two chapters, but it's really a continuation of the previous chapter about God's greatness. And after we were talking about creation, and we're talking about God making peace. And so it would make sense that would be a continuation of this. There are others who say, no. There are others who say what Iyov is trying to do is Iyov, in a sense, is trying to... Iyov is trying to tell his friends that he is righteous, that he is religious, that he is pious, right? He's being punished despite his innocence, but he's a religious person. So different ways of understanding this chapter, but it's it's coming from the fact that it doesn't seem to make sense that Iyov here is praising God, and those praises will continue. Let's continue. In verse 8, so rare mayim be'ava v'lo nifkanan tachtam. He wrapped up the waters in his clouds, yet no cloud burst under the weight. You would think it would burst under the weight. Me'achaz pnei chisa parshes alav anano. He shuts off the view of his throne, spreading his cloud over it. Chok chag al pnei mayim ad tachlit or im choshech. He drew a boundary on the edge of the waters, and the extremes were light and darkness meet. Again, this idea similar, it sounds right, kind of like the last chapter, one of the two ways I was trying to explain the pachad and the shalom, right? Sort of the coexistence of antipodes together. The extremes were light and darkness. God can keep them together. Amudei shamayim yiro fafu v'yit mehu miga'arato. The pillars of heaven tremble, astounded at God's blast. By his power he stilled the sea. By his skill he struck down Rahav. So we're continuing here with over and over again with mythical language and mythical ideas. This idea of Rahav and other things that are coming from sea monsters and serpents and just all sorts of mythical ideas that the Torah uses at times to show God's strength, because it's the metaphors to use, it's the parables to use for people to understand the power of God in their language. Beruchon, verse 13, Shamayim Shifra, Chodelo Yada Nachash Bariach. By his wind he calmed the heavens, his hand pierced the elusive serpent. Hein Elek Tzot Derachav Uma Shemetz Davar Nishmabo Vira'am Gvurato Miyit Bonain. These are just the glimpses of his rule, the mere whisper that we can perceive. Who can absorb the thunder of his mighty deeds? Who can possibly do this? Now, I just want to look at the opening verse of 27, which may be why some of the complication, and maybe that Vayan Iyov is there. If you look at 27, it says, Vayosef Iyov se'et mishalo vayomar. Iyov again took up his theme and said, so Yosef, right? So is this Yosef, does this mean Iyov's continuing from chapter 26, or is this Iyov's continuing from something earlier? And that may have been the reason why then the word that chapter 26 became a Vayan Iyov. That there are those that maybe that's what happened. That because chapter 26 starts with the word Vayosef that Iyov added, but the added doesn't have to be to the last thing. It could be added to what he said in chapter 24 and chapter 22 and chapter 7 and all the other things that he said earlier. So there's a little bit of confusion I would see here, and it's a chapter that's strange that Iyov would be saying these things. That Iyov is talking about, whether it be crocodiles or hippopotamuses and God fighting the sea and all the mythological mythic imagery, and this is related to texts and that we found in ancient Canaanite and ancient when I say we, not me, Ugaritic writing. And that's something that's done in different places in the Tanakh. We just had Shirat Hayam, which has a lot of similarities with Egyptian songs from their battle against the Hittite during the days of Ramses II. And so we have here, it's a chapter that is very difficult to understand. Why is Iyov? Again, we could take this idea that he's trying to show his belief in God, his understanding of God, right? Iyov doesn't say, I reject God. Iyov says, I want to have a relationship with God. I want to fight with God. I want to argue with God. Or maybe somehow this Vayan Iyov somehow crept into the text. And this is a chapter, this is the continuation of the words of Bildad. Two different ways of reading the chapter. You can come certainly to your own conclusion.